Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. So, we're talking about professionalism versus authenticity, or maybe professionalism and authenticity, because where is the line between being authentic at work and then being professional or unprofessional? Because for a long time, we've had these conversations, whether we're working in corporate, nonprofit, when you're at work, basically, where it boils down to show up a certain way at work. And is that the right thing? Or is it something where there need to be boundaries in how we bring authenticity to work? Hello, everyone. I'm LaPora Lindsey, and I'm joined here today by Susan Lee, a high performance coach we're going to be talking about authenticity and all the ways that it can benefit us. But I want to pass it over to Susan really quickly to just share a little bit more about yourself and I guess why is this topic something that you're interested in talking about?
Well, thanks, LaPora, for inviting me today. Hi, everyone. My name is Susan, also known as Miss Lee. As LaPora mentioned, I am a career coach for high performers. And I wanted to talk about this topic because, to be honest, I'm seeing the word authenticity everywhere to the point where it feels like it's kind of giving like Smurf energy. Like we're saying it, but what does it actually mean? Are we just using it for for all these things? Um, and but the thing is, it can be so powerful when used correctly,
Right.
and that's why I wanted to have this conversation and
Oh, that's
have a
good.
little fun and
I love
hang out with my girl. So
I love the Smurf piece. That's that's funny. Sorry. So I put this question up here, but it's in the chat, everyone. So as we're going throughout this conversation, let us know what describes how you best show up at work. Do you think it's authentic? Do you think it's professional? Both, or something else? Let us know in the chat. There is no wrong answer. Okay. So Susan, we tell professionals, we tell workers to bring their authentic selves to work. But the moment they do, there is a risk maybe in being labeled, whether it's labeled as awkward, maybe it's labeled as unfiltered, or whatever the case may be. How can you be authentic at work without jeopardizing your professionalism?
how to be authentic at work without jeopardizing your professionalism really boils down to just one word if you take away anything from today's live stream.
Okay.
And that word is discernment.
Ooh.
Discernment being a fancy way of having the skill to know what decisions to make at what time, understanding context, understanding nuance, having really good judgment of how should I behave depending on the situation. So I believe that with authenticity, there's a responsibility on both sides as the individual and as the employer. So let's actually start with the employer.
Okay.
Even with job listings or just marketing these days, you see a lot of companies now embracing the word authenticity or bring your authentic self to work, right? We've been hearing that phrase everywhere. And what I'm noticing now that authenticity has become more of a marketing buzzword rather than is it an actual practice within the company? Are
Mm,
we actually exuding this? Or is it just something that we're saying because it's trendy and because that's what we know top performers, right? People, whether you're a high performer or high potential, they're likely to attract you because, of course, who doesn't want to be authentic? So that's why I hesitate when companies throw that in because I always follow up with, well, what do you mean? What does that really mean? And then on top of that, the individual. So as the individual, if you want to be authentic, you need to first know who you are, which is a big identity, which is a whole other live stream conversation. But this one comes up a lot. And especially even with my clients who are high performers, a lot of them are mid-career, 15, 20 years in, they're experts in their field. But behind closed doors, they're having kind of this mid-career life crisis of like, I don't know who I am. And that is a very common blind spot. Identity is one of them, trust, beliefs, and tolerance. But identity, it really starts with identity. Is
yeah.
if you're going to be your authentic self, well, who is that? Who is that person?
Yeah. You know, I feel like you started with the employer and you mentioned when they say authenticity, what do you mean? And then when you went to the individual and you said starting with your identity, and I feel like it's the same, that same question, one for a company and one for the person. It's who are you as a company and who are you as a person? I feel like that's so important because without that, how do we even know what it means to
Mm,
be authentic? How do we know when we are in an environment that doesn't feel true to ourselves if we haven't explored yet what that looks like? So I think
right.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, I feel that if you are still trying to figure that out, like many of us are,
Yeah.
and but you still got to do your job, I would say that the thing that you want to look out for is when you do or say something, or maybe don't do or don't say something at work, and it feels like a betrayal. And that is when that's a sign that this is not that is not authentic to you, whoever you are. So
Yeah.
really like listen to your body, listen to trusting your gut. And you're right. If your definition is unclear and the employer's definition and intentions are unclear, then there's going to constantly be this conflict. And I like to be an optimist sometimes. And I believe that there are companies that really are trying, like they really do want to embrace this culture of authenticity. And but I think that what we struggle with is avoiding conflict. And because if we really want to be authentic and really want people to be people and be more human and bring their human selves to work,
Yeah.
then we need to create an environment that feels safe, because there's going to be conflict, and that's going to quote unquote slow down productivity temporarily. But leaders of companies who can see the bigger picture will recognize that that effort is worth it. But if you're in this constant like just go 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 all about the metrics and KPIs and insert other businessy word here, then it's just going to feel like a nuisance, right? It's like
Yeah.
oh, this is not a good culture fit, or this is not productive, or this is you're not being a team player. And then that is also kind of dangerous for your own growth and own um, your own perception of yourself. Because if you're being told that you're not a team player and you're not being productive because they don't view the way that you operate and the way that you move through the workplace and through the world as good enough, then you start to believe that because you don't quite know who you are yet. So it can get really messy. And that's why I feel like this is a good time for companies out there. If you are thinking about using that phrase of bring your authentic selves to work, I challenge you to not use that sentence and instead substitute it with what do you actually mean by that? Like, give
Yeah.
us some examples of what that means. I think people will really appreciate that, even if it's not a perfect answer.
Yeah. No, that's 100% because it can mean so many different things to different people. And I have a quick story I want to share. But before I do that, if you're just now tuning in, be sure to let us know, what describes you best at work. But if you have any other, like as in authentic, personal, professional, or both, or something else. But also, if you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to put those in the chat as well. I know Susan will be happy to answer them, and she's definitely the person you want to answer these questions that we're talking about authenticity. Um, Susan, you mentioned something, and I'll probably substitute it for another word, so I'll do a terrible job paraphrasing here. With how sometimes people can come to work and being like the work, all the KPIs and things along those lines. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about the fact of probably 10 years, I did not learn how to make friends until probably about 10 years ago. Regardless of the reason why I did not really know how to make friends. Well, that's
Mhm.
another topic. But one of the things that I used to do at work was I would always come in ready to work. And I had this one supervisor, I would come in. As soon as he comes in through the door, I'm not saying hello. I'm not saying good morning. I'm just getting straight to the point. Like,
Mm.
hello, blah, blah, blah. This is what I got to do. But that was me because I didn't know how to talk, nor did I really care.
Mhm.
Sorry.
They didn't hire you to hug, okay? They hired
They
you to
did
get
not hire
your
me to
job.
hug. They did not hire me to have
Yes.
emotions. They just hired me to get the job done. But
Yes.
anyways, I say that. And then you mentioned the conflict. So as you were saying all of those
Mhm.
things, that story just came to my mind as far as how does one navigate those types of situations in creating that balance, or is that even something that we need to do? Do we need to navigate that? Do we just show up in that case as we are?
I'm going to say something that y'all are not gonna wanna hear, but you have to you have to play the game to an extent, or at the very least, you need to know what the rules are.
Okay.
And so when you have somebody who is your direct supervisor or just excuse me, people of influence in your company or even people on your team, right? They don't have to be like above you necessarily, but all the people around you that you will influence and they will influence you, they are a part of your team. And so being a good team player is really understanding, well, how do I create a relationship and a connection with them? And really comes down to communication. I'm a big, big, big believer in over communicating without being condescending. Because I'm also very like straight to the point and can be very blunt. Some people love me
Yeah.
for that. Some people do not like me for that. But I found that over communicating has truly like I'm trying not to use another buzzword here, but it really has transformed the way I have transformed my relationships, not just professionally, but also personally within my own marriage. That is something that my husband and I, we had to learn through marriage counseling, not because anything was wrong, but because we want to keep it that way, prevent things from going wrong. And we learned that, you know, when we bring ourselves into a marriage, we're actually bringing our childhood into the marriage. And so I feel like when you're bringing yourself to work and you spend 8 hours a day there, right? Like your career is a part of your identity, whether you like it or not. Like when there are those like conflicting, tense moments, like your other stuff is going to come with you to work. It's just not you're not going to see it necessarily right away, but that is just what's going to happen. So I think that the over communication piece is, you know, with someone who likes to do the small talk and the chit chat. Maybe for them, they do need that. They do need that small talk chit chat. Hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? Those few minutes, it's worth it's almost like an investment. It's worth investing that time just a little bit each day for that person to feel connected to you because the relationship I think is more important and ultimately benefits you too. So when we think about authenticity, I feel like it's not an excuse to be a jerk or it's not an excuse to just be real for the sake of being real. Like again, practice discernment, right? Like
Yeah.
if you want to keep this job or you want to climb the ladder or whatever it is, or if you just genuinely want to connect with the people on your team, you got to think about like what are the things that I need to do? What are the rules of the game? And at the same time, how can I play the game without betraying myself?
That's good. Man, but you know, and you're right about that playing the game with people disliking that. I can already like because I even though I agree with you, I even get like that, oh gosh, playing the game, like, do we really need to do this? Like, do we
Mm,
really need to
I know.
participate? But no.
I know.
but I mean, it makes sense because honestly, I think that may be, and you let me know your thoughts on this. I think that may be where the challenge is that a lot of times we polarize what authenticity is. It
Mm,
is
mm,
either you are authentic or you are inauthentic. And we kind of forget all the different layers that come in between
mm.
being authentic and inauthentic. And it's not just either or. Like when I'm hangry, like ask me a question if you want to, but you will get a very different response when I'm,
Mm,
hungry, angry, than if I'm fed and like the temperature is comfortable.
mhm.
So I don't know. I don't even know where I was going with that one, but
But again, discernment, right? Judging is like,
right.
is it like 12, like 1 p.m. and LaPora is still in the office, like working? Then like, and her face is just like, and like maybe now is not the time to ask her like a question that's maybe not that important. So yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to that, like knowing it is a skill of discernment, judging a situation and making a decision of like, sometimes it's even the decision of should I even react or engage in this? Because not
Yeah,
everything needs a response, right? Not everything
that's true.
needs a reaction. And that is a conversation that I have with my coaching clients. They come to me not because they struggle in their job. It's more so they're like, there's this very specific situation or the conversation that I need to have with somebody on my team or with one of my bosses. But how do I do it without seeming XYZ? And I mainly work with women and women of color. So it all comes up as like, I don't want to be seen like I'm being pushy or annoying or aggressive. And when we really break down, well, what is that actually, what do you mean by that, right? Like, what do you
Right.
mean? What do you mean by aggressive? What do you mean by annoying? So when you really break it down, it's like, oh, maybe this is a situation that I don't need to necessarily insert myself into, right? Or is this a situation that it just needs a little time to settle? Like, I think that especially as high performers or just hard workers, we think that we just need to do, like, whenever something's like put in front of us, we just need to do and react and have an answer for everything.
Yeah.
That's exhausting. It's also like
Yeah.
unnecessary. So yeah, I don't think authenticity needs to go away, but I think kind of like in the very beginning, like I said, it's the new Smurf. It's just like along with community, it's just like everyone has a community, everyone's being authentic. And speaking of sharing stories, I mean, this is not my story, but I had a colleague who worked at Marriott, and she was the boss. She was like a supervisor, and they had this whole like training and where they talked about authenticity and like bringing your authentic self to work, and Marriott supports this and da da da. And one of the women on our team who works at the front desk the next day came in wearing a club attire, like she's going clubbing.
Oh, like nighttime club.
Nighttime clubbing, yes. And when she approached her, she was like, we need to talk about your outfit. And she was like, oh no, but this is just, I'm just, I express myself through fashion. This is just me being my authentic self. And she's like, so it's not quite like, at the same time, it's like, but we all have a uniform, right? We all have a way of dressing, because you like, I mean, not just Marriott, but just any company. When you work for that company, you are a part of their identity. And so to
Right.
show that you are a team player, sometimes you physically have to look like part of the team. So I think that it just, I think we're not going to get it right the first time, right?
Yeah.
It's going to swing to extremes, like you said, like either like, oh, I'm just who I am, or I'm going to be a totally different person. I feel like people have been just looking for the permission to be just more of themselves and not just perform, put on a performance, like put on
Yeah.
a mask, you know? But at the same time, like you shouldn't necessarily behave the way you would behave with your like sibling or your spouse. Like it's still a job, right? It's
Right.
just still a
Yeah.
job. And so you need to know the game, play accordingly. And if sometimes, if you want to win, at the very least, if you want to win the game, you need to know the rules.
Yeah. No, that's it reminds me of a saying that I keep hearing in regards to, like, before you step out of the box, you need to first know what the box is, because you can't step out of what you don't
Mm,
know exists.
right.
Um, and so I think about that as you mentioned, understanding the rules to the game. The other piece that you mentioned was, far as you didn't use the word conform, and so I apologize if I'm misinterpreting this, but you mentioned something along the lines of, if you work for a company as an individual, then there is a part of you that needs to kind of, I say conform with the with
It's
the
un
organization and what their identity is as a company. And so I guess my question to you maybe we can scale this back from individual to individual. You both work for the same company, maybe you work for the same team, regardless of supervisor, individual contributor. None of that matters with this question. But where does one draw the line between, bringing their own authenticity to work and compromising or negotiating with the other person and how they bring themselves to work? Because if we are all holding back, what part are we actually showing? And then if we are all giving everything that we have, then who actually has the opportunity to shine? You know what I mean? Like, so how do we kind of do this dance, or do we even do this dance where we're working with individuals? If we're coming to work authentic, how do we determine if we are coming 30%, 50%
Mm.
versus the other person meeting us? How do we make that determination?
I think that if I knew the answer to that, I could make a lot of more money than I am now. So, no, it's a great question, right? Like, how much of yourself can you bring? And, ultimately it comes down to how much you trust the people that you work with.
That's a good one.
Um, and I also think that, you know what, as I say this out loud, like, you have to earn you have to earn it. Like,
Yes, yes, I agree.
it's like respect. Like, I actually started off my career as a teacher. I thought when I was 10 years old, I decided I'm going to be a high school math teacher, and I did it, and then I left. But that's a story for another day. But I remember, my students, other teachers, they'd be like, "Oh, these kids, they're just disrespectful, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, well, I'm like, well, what did you do to show them respect? And they're like, well, I'm the teacher, so they should be respectful to me. And I'm like, no, like that's not how it works, right? And so not only did I practice like me showing them respect and giving them respect, but like actually saying it to them, like day one, right? It's like, I want you to write down what your expectations are of me, of each other, and of
Oh,
yourself.
that's good.
And then I'm going to do that for myself, for the class, right? And we had like big poster papers everywhere. They all would take turns writing, right? And we could see that their themes were very similar, like between those groups of what do you expect from yourself, what do you expect from each other, what do you expect from Miss Lee as a teacher. It was pretty much the same, right? And respect was always the word that came up the most. But then I would push them to say, like, what does it look like and what does it not look like?
Yeah.
And just even having that conversation was a sign of respect. And so I think that if you want my full authentic self, you need to earn it. Like, you need to show me that like you are creating this space where I can be authentic without being punished or being perceived in a certain way because of certain stereotypes or certain expectations. Because I am a woman, you expect me to be softer, or you expect me to be a certain way. So yeah, I think it needs to be earned as the individual.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's good. No, I like that a lot. And actually, I like the whole exercise as well. Like, I feel like that's something that could easily be duplicated in the corporate setting, as far as
Mhm.
uh, when you're coming on to a new team, or when the workplace dynamics change slightly. Like, what are we looking for in each other? What are we looking for peers? What are we looking for as supervisors? What are we looking
Mhm.
for with direct reports? Like, I feel like that's a really powerful exercise, one that I haven't seen. Like, we see these strength tests, we see the personality tests, and those are great. But to your point, define what we mean. So if you say you're someone who is introverted, like, what does that mean for you? Like, how do you need to recharge? I think about, I worked at I'm an introvert and happily an introvert. Um I worked at one
Mhm.
organization where I did a lot of teaching and instruction, and so sometimes I would spend like 4 to 6 hours a day in front of an audience. And I would come to my coworkers and I'd be like, look, y'all, I'm not going to be eating lunch with y'all today because I'm tired. In fact, I'm not going to be eating lunch with y'all any day this week because I need to recharge.
Mhm.
But that
Mhm.
is, to your point, that is defining what it looks like for me. and them having that same expectation of when LaPora is doing a workshop X amount of time, she's not going to be eating lunch with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a really great exercise. So I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's really powerful.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to that over communicating, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
well, we all know what respect means, right? Like, do we though? Again, going back to what do you mean by that? And especially when you're working with kids. And, but I mean, again, some people not like this comment, but adults are kind of like children with credit cards. So it's not really that different
Oh, Susan.
sometimes. Yeah. But no, jokes aside, yeah, I think that, it's something that needs to be earned. But I think that, because there needs to be a level where you do need to protect yourself too.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not in a position of privilege. So when I say play the game, it's more so be aware of the rules of the game. And so that way you know how to proceed and you can practice that discernment. And when you then feel like you can show more of yourself at work, also asking yourself, like, what is that for? Like, how will that ultimately benefit you? I'm not saying pretend to be a different person,
Right.
but I mean, it really depends on even the industry and the space that you're in. I feel like if you are more in a creative space, then yeah, authenticity like fuels artistry and creativity. So more of that in order for you to stand out. But these days, I feel like no matter what industry you're in, everyone's struggling to stand out for a variety of reasons. So that's why they keep shouting authenticity. It's like, you got to be authentic. And we love the stories of people who are like true to themselves and then they like take over the world and all those other things. But you also don't hear about the stories of people who do that and like nothing happens. So I
Ooh.
think that, realizing, okay, what am I doing this for? And then the other test of like, if something happened and it feels like a betrayal, that is a big signal, right? So that I feel like thinking about that, right, just having that in the back of your mind, but then also practicing discernment, being like, is this a place where I can be authentic? Have they earned my authenticity? Have they earned for me to feel safe? It's easy to say that this is a safe space, right? Like, safe space for who?
And when, right?
And when, right? So asking those questions and
Yeah.
slowing it down and over communicating and setting those expectations, defining what those things mean. I think that is it slows things down purposefully and it feels like, oh, I just want to get it done. But I am a big believer in like you invest that time and energy into it in the beginning and it will pay off in dividends later on. Like everything else will grow exponentially if you invest in the beginning. But if you just try to like push through and just like get it done, get it done, get it done, you're always going to be feeling like you're just constantly just trying to like keep your head above water.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's good. That is so good. And I think that's a perfect way to summarize everything that you've shared today. So many great tips. Y'all are quiet today out there in the, in the chat. Maybe y'all are
They're
just
mad at me. They're
listening.
like, she just keeps saying things we don't want to hear.
No, but I think this is so useful. And if we had like a lot more time, I would delve into, because you mentioned something about, what happens when you show up as your authentic self and you don't get the response that you're looking for. And then I started thinking about, well, what happens when people don't have the discernment, but they're looking to build that discernment and they don't get the response they're looking for. You know what I mean? So that's really, really good. I really,
Part
I
two.
really,
Part two.
yes, yes. But I really would love for Susan, for you to share a little bit more about how people can get in contact with you, because I know that you offer. I'm part of your newsletter subscription list, but distribution list. But I would love for other people as well to know about more what you offer, so that way they can join and be a part of it as well.
Absolutely. Well, like I mentioned earlier, that identity piece, that is one of the things that I work on with my clients. So I call them blind spots, the 4 blind spots. So identity is one, trust, we've also covered. and beliefs and tolerance being another one. And so I have these tools on my website. I have free resources to help you figure out which one of those blind spots are your primary ones and what to actually do about it. No self-help BS. I'm very anti self-help. I feel that especially the group that the clientele I work with, they have outgrown the generic advice. And so my newsletter called Better Work is really around that, is to take this generic piece of advice and dismantling it and really diving deep into like, what does this really mean? Like different ways to look at it, and then what to do about it afterwards. So I also try to weave in stories, and I feel like that is a good example of me being authentic, but also fulfilling a purpose at the same time. So I welcome you to join my newsletter. It is free. You can also read a year and a half worth of issues for free on my website. So I hope to see you on my list, or you can find me on LinkedIn, which I think LaPora will have the links for all of that. Yes, right
Yes,
there. Hey, Miss Lee,
absolutely.
find me on LinkedIn.
And your website has all of those links, right? It's just boom, boom, boom
Yes.
right there as soon
Yep.
as you. All right,
Yes,
perfect.
newsletter, the quiz for the 4 blind spots, LinkedIn. I'm also playing around with Threads, but yeah, I would say that my newsletter is the best way to get in contact with me, or just to see if you like this conversation. Then you'll definitely like my newsletter, so you can give it a try, and if not, your money back. So,
I love it. So, y'all, that website is heymisslee.com. Be sure to check it out. Sign up for the distribution. I mean, sign up for the newsletter because, hey, why not? You know what I mean? Give it a shot, see what you like about it, and get more information, get more conversations like this today, what Susan has so gracefully decided to share her time with us today. All right, y'all, that is all that I have today. Thank you all so much for joining. And just remember that in everything you do, remember to stay adding value. All right, y'all, have a good one. Bye.